Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings-Danny SportsWrap. It's brought to you by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. See their ads right here at DannyClinkscale.com. Listen to the ad you'll hear coming up and learn more about how you can get help with your healthcare from NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. Well, it was a nice, beautiful, cool weekend. A little bit of rain on Sunday here in Kansas City where I was. It was a nice, cool, sunny weekend the whole time. And, of course, now we're into a gloomy few days, but some badly needed rain. Sprinklers can go away for a little bit, and I think that our sports landscape kind of reflects the juxtaposition of those two things, as we've got some good, we've got some bad, we've got some smiles, we've got some frowns, we've got a few tears as well in the sports world this particular Monday. Chiefs over the weekend wrapped up camp, and all from a football standpoint is full speed ahead as far as the Chiefs are concerned. Patrick Mahomes had a press conference, and he spoke out and spoke strongly and said many of what many people would perceive as the right things. Some wouldn't, and that's probably just empowering him. I'll get into that. The Rose continue their almost remarkable knack for losing, some jarring statistics as far as that was concerned. And I mentioned some tears. We lost some very significant people either in or related to the world of sports in the last few days. As John Thompson's death yesterday was announced today, Lute Olson, another Hall of Fame basketball coach, died last week. And we also had some incredible golf drama as for the first time in a quarter century. A playoff was held with the number 1 and number 2 golfers in the world, and it turned into incredible drama between Jon Rahm and Dustin Johnson as the PGA Tour heads to the Tour Championship without Tiger Woods. That's all on the menu today on Monday Musings, Danny SportsWrap. It's brought to you by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. Listen in. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's becoming a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com and let Chad help you. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back. Kansas City Chiefs are now in regular season mode as their season. It actually seems very likely now that it's going to begin right the way it was supposed to on a Thursday night with a limited amount of fans against the Houston Texans. The Chiefs basically seem to have, from a football standpoint, a virtually seamless training camp. Yes, they had a suspension or two that has affected the team. Question marks at the cornerback position, but other than that, the Chiefs seem to be in remarkably good stead. And if the question marks for the Chiefs are ever on the defensive side of the ball, that's always a good thing, because even on a bad defensive day, the Chiefs are very, very capable of winning football games, and that is for sure. And it should be a remarkable season. We'll see if it plays out without interruption. We'll see how the evidence of fans in the stands works out. We'll see where the virus takes us as far as this particular football season, both college and pro, continues. But, of course, there are many, many other issues that are involved regarding the Chiefs that are outside of football, and certainly the Black Lives Matter and social injustice aspects of the NFL season will be on display as the season rolls out. We don't quite know what that's going to look like right now, but certainly something appears likely to be done, and in all likelihood, players are going to openly show support for the Black Lives Matter movement, and that includes Patrick Mahomes, and he dealt with that at his press conference the other day and maybe had a word or two for people who don't like what he's saying.
I'm going to do what I believe, and what I believe is right, and I'm going to do whatever I can to fight for equality for all people. And, I feel like I've shown that over this offseason. I'm going to continue that fight. And I'm not worried about people how they're going to do negative stuff back to me. I'm worried about doing what's right for humanity and making sure that all people feel equal.
Pat, on this year's Hard Knocks, we got to see some internal discussions about the social justice stuff, and one of the frustrations was just how much emphasis there is on whether or not you're going to kneel. So, not asking that, but why is that so frustrating as one of the faces of the league, that there's just so much emphasis on maybe the gesture and not the message behind the gesture?
I think you said exactly what it is. It's because it became something where it's whether or not you're going to kneel instead of what the reason why the kneeling began in the beginning, which was social injustice and police brutality. And I feel like that's been the biggest thing. Is it's not necessarily the gesture, but we're trying to fix something. We're trying to make it where it's equal for everybody. Everybody feels safe. Everybody feels secure. Everybody can go about living their life, and they really truly care about the person next to them. And I feel like that's why people feel like it became such a thing. It's because every single time you get interviewed or you go out and you're in public, people are asking, "Are you going to kneel? Are you not going to kneel?" They're not asking about the actual injustices that you're trying to fix and what you're trying to help the community with.
It struck me when Patrick Mahomes was making his comments that both he and Tyrann Mathieu have noted that they've had some blowback as far as their comments are concerned about social justice issues on social media. And if somebody is of the mindset that they want to bite back at what these two players are doing or the actions that are taking or the words that they are speaking, what they're probably doing is just solidifying the resolve of people who probably are inclined to do so anyway. But Patrick Mahomes is a person who often treads carefully on things and is an even-keeled type of person. Well, he is taking a more bold approach, I think, and I think a lot of it is probably built on the fact that some people are getting back after him on social media, and I think he sees that that's probably exactly the reason why he needs to speak out, and he has taken few, if any, missteps along the way, and how this will play out and the reaction of people both in the stands and in social media and in the media period plays out will be very, very interesting. But you can almost count on the fact that Patrick Mahomes will handle himself with aplomb in those situations, and the words that he spoke right there are just indicative of that. A little less appealing as far as what he has to say is Clark Hunt. He held a press conference right after Patrick Mahomes did, and he just is somewhat uncomfortable in these settings anyway, and he tries to say as little as possible. And the one thing that stuck out the most probably about the Black Lives Matter comments and his ideas on what may play out is that he said, and he knew he was going to speak to the media because he always does so at training camp, he said that he hadn't spoken to the players yet. I found that remarkable. If you are going to come out and have to make a statement and have to comment on what you think might be the reaction of players or where their attitudes are at, to say that you haven't spoken to the team yet struck me as rather remarkable. Otherwise, he said all the right things, that they're in dialogue constantly with the Native American community, and of course they have banned headdress and face paint at the stadium, but those two things are not resonating with fans very much anyway, and there's no hue and cry about that. Now, how they will handle the chop, the name of the stadium, the name of the team per se, I don't think anything is really going to happen in those regards. But this struck me rather strongly over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I do have some Native American heritage. I'm not going to say that I've waved the flag about it for a long, long time. I'm either 1/8 or 1/4 Cherokee. Our family history is a little bit murky in that regard. But we've taken a couple of driving trips the last couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, and then over this past weekend to Nebraska. And so we've been in Nebraska and Kansas and Iowa and Missouri, and you just really can't drive 8 miles without Native American heritage being really right in your face. The names of counties, the names of towns, the names of parks, the names of rivers are all over the place, and that's about the only time that we tend to think about Native American heritage, because they're the most marginalized, one of the most marginalized groups ever. The absolutely horrific treatment that we had of that particular group, to the point where they are virtually anonymous in American culture, is really rather galling, and I don't think it gets much attention, and that's probably why it's at least a good thing that we have some furor about the Cleveland Indians and the Washington football team, formerly the Redskins, and the Chiefs and the Chop and Arrowhead and things like that, because I've said it before, to me it's just simple. The heritage of a people is not a plaything, and that's pretty much what we've treated it through the years, and naming our sports teams, doing chants and beating a drum and all this other stuff. That's people's heritage. It's not for you to play around with, and the more and more we get away from that, and the more we actually pay a little bit of attention to that heritage, I think it'd be a much more positive thing as far as this country is concerned. And I don't think that should be controversial in any way, shape, or form. But as I was going through Nemaha County and Neosho County and this county and that county and this park and crossing that river, all with Indian names, it really resonated with me over the past few weeks. I talked about the ups and downs and the gloom and the sunshine. Well, the Kansas City Royals just keep on losing. Basically, since their horrific start of 3-10, they've kind of been a 500 baseball team, a little bit below. But the way they lose is almost astounding. And yesterday was another example of it. They got walked off for the third time in the last 4 games. They've been walked off 4 times in road games this year. But that isn't the most remarkable statistic. The Royals lost a rubber game yesterday against the Chicago White Sox in walk-off fashion, of course, and they now have lost 31 of their last 35 rubber games. The deciding game of a 3-game series has gone their way at a 114 winning percentage. I mean, that's just almost impossible to do. I mean, that's unbelievably, remarkably bad over a fairly big sample size. That's 35 games. Even if you won a quarter, think of how much better that would be in that particular case. but they continue to struggle in that regard. They've lost all 4 of them this year, and that really is the storyline for the Royals. And I guess if you want to paint it in a more positive way, what you would say is that these are tight series, and if the Royals just did a little better job in some tight games afterwards, they'd be a much better ball club. But that is the lament of the losing team, and you do look for signs. Chris Bubik yesterday pitched well. That's always a good sign. He overcame some difficulties as far as having men on base, and when the young pitchers pitch well, that's a good sign. The bad thing for the Royals this year is that their bullpen has been a remarkable strength, but it has also seen the most tragic of losses. The 4 walk-offs already this year, which obviously come against relievers, and that's the downside for a bullpen that's been overpowering enough that the Royals were very comfortable in trading away Trevor Rosenthal, who ends up being a great signing. And now who knows whether this trade for Edward Olivares, a outfielder, a young outfielder, 24 years of age, so not that young, but he comes in a trade with the Padres, and so the Royals just signed Rosenthal. He pitched well for 6 weeks or so, and then they get something for him. And they may get something down the line, because this year, because of the pandemic, you're not allowed to trade a player who is not on the 60-man roster. So to get around that, basically what teams are doing is naming a player to be named later. In other words, after that rule is changed. That, could be a better prospect maybe than even Olivares. Who's to say? But anyway, the Royals do get something. Today is the trade deadline in baseball. Do I think something big's going to happen? No. I'd be happy if this podcast did not reflect accuracy in that regard by the time you hear it. But at least the Royals did a little something with one of the pieces that they acquired in the offseason. So some up, some down, and that continues coming up next as we talk about sporting. Some losses in the world of sports as far as losing some significant people to passing away. The NBA a little bit, and some remarkable occurrences in the world of golf. That all coming up on Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap, and it's brought to you by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from RecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Let's spend a minute with Dr. Brad Woodle, who along with his wife, Dr. Christina Woodle, the owners of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, my home for chiropractic care. And first of all, just tell us about the wide range of services you offer.
Danny, we offer comprehensive chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapy, and rehab. We do a very thorough examination, x-rays on site as necessary, and we have a full rehabilitation department, so we can help out with exercises, stretches, different therapies for the complex, but also the very simple conditions we treat.
You have been deemed essential and have remained open all through this COVID-19 process. What are some of the things you've done to make sure that was the case?
From the very beginning, in March, we started to make sure that we were cleaning and sanitizing with EPA-registered sanitizing products. We also implemented masks way before the state required them. We implemented a parking lot waiting room, took out half of the chairs in our waiting room, and made sure to space out visits so we could appropriately meet, discuss, and also screen patients to make sure we were taking care of healthy people.
Find out more about Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture and how they can help you at asfca.com. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and considering the circumstances, it was a very good Saturday night for the Sporting Kansas City Club. A draw on the road is always a good result. A draw on the road when you lose a couple of significant players in Roger Espinoza and Winston Reed in the first half to injury and have to replace them in two separate windows when you only have 3 replacement windows. When you're playing at altitude and you probably would like to use all of your substitutes, that puts you in a position where there's some real challenge there. You fall behind in the game early in the second half on a goal. You end up evening up on a wonder strike by Gianluca Busio, the young Sporting player who now is laying back but being an attacking midfielder, a unique position for him, and he's played that the last couple of games and played it well. But in this position, off a rebound, he strikes from well outside the box, ties the game, but then soon after that, you're down to 10 men as Sporting has to play the last 20 minutes or so with just 10 men. They ride it out. They win. They get the result. Their first place in the Western Conference. And that all, of course, makes Peter, for me, he's pretty proud of his club.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that we were very organized in the first half. I thought we had some great chances going to their goal, which we should have taken advantage of. But we stayed organized throughout the game. We didn't lose ourselves after they scored. We found a way to get back into the game and then be able to close it out, beat a man down was... showed a lot of grit for the team, which we needed to after last game's performance. We talked about how we were going to respond, and I thought the guys responded very well.
And then with the 2 early injuries, it obviously changed your plans for substitutes and made it, I assume, more difficult in the second half. Just how did those 2 injuries change what you were planning for the rest of the game?
Well, first of all, I think that we were actually playing really well at that point. So I wasn't really thinking too much about what those changes might be. I thought someone on the wing or both might get tired just because of part of our game plan. I also thought there was going to have to be a change in the middle of midfield, which happened. I was expecting Gotti to be able to play most of the game because I've given him rest the last couple games. So I did that as well. And then everything else comes off of where guys are physically. So it did change the point of view that I wasn't going to sub 2 guys on the first sub and 2 guys on the second sub when they both happened in the first half. So what it really did, where it hurt us, is it just really did give us a chance to use the other guys that we could have used just because we just weren't in position to do it.
Hey Peter, can you just talk about Busio? He's seems to be continuing to grow in that role, and then the goal he got.
Yeah, look, he had a good performance. Each game, I think he gets better and better. The goal was a great strike, and he has that quality in him, so it was good to see it. I know you guys, when you guys watch the game, you guys are looking at it from like, how do you guys do? All the guys on our team are growing, and they're starting to get a little bit of a routine in the position in which they're playing. That's a good thing. So right now, again, this was a good result. If you look at the guys on the field, again, a lot of young players. We keep going that direction just because of the complexity of the schedule. But those guys are holding their own, so it's good to see. It's just good to see, and yeah, he had a good performance again. Each time he's getting to be smarter and smarter in some of the decisions that he's making, both with the ball and without it. So that's good.
So the first place Sporting Kansas City Club returns for their second game with fans on Wednesday at Children's Mercy Park, and they have returned to some pretty good form. It's not been all seamless as far as the post-pandemic restart has been concerned. One rather glaring bad loss, but they bounced back with a good performance at Colorado and get the 1 point and are still in first place. Some very significant people were lost over the last week in the world of sports, and one came today. Actually, it was announced today, but John Thompson passed away at the age of 78 yesterday, the first African-American coach to win an NCAA championship, a dominant figure in college basketball, especially in the 1980s when college basketball really sort of rose to the great prominence that it has today. Not that it was a marginal sport, but the Final Four, the spectacular nature of that, playing in domes, all that type of thing, really started in the 1980s, and a big driving force in it was the Big East and the incredible rivalries they had there between St. John's and Georgetown and Syracuse, and some great teams there. Big Monday, which was fueled, obviously, by the Big East. They'd have the early game there, and then that was great for the Big 8, Big 12, because they would be the back end of that particular television product eventually, and that was a big deal as well. And John Thompson also was an important figure, not just from a basketball standpoint, where his rough and tough defensive-minded teams made 3 out of 4 Final Fours and won an NCAA championship early in the 1980s. But also, they were a riveting figure as far as college basketball is concerned. Not many people outside of the Georgetown community would have rooted for the Georgetown Hoyas. John Thompson was an intimidating-looking figure on the sidelines. He was irascible. He got into some real conflicts with other coaches. He stood his ground as far as racial issues were concerned. His teams were almost entirely black. He was a great mentor to those young people, but some people found the fact that he was bringing inner-city youth to Georgetown, but in the end, 45 or 47 players who stayed 4 years at Georgetown, received their degrees. He actually retired fairly early as a basketball coach, but he certainly left an incredible legacy. I had the opportunity to interview him on multiple occasions at the Final Four. He is a very intimidating person to be around, but he, in the end, is a very nice person, very friendly. You have to get past a gruff exterior and a 6'9", 300-pound frame, and sort of he doesn't look friendly when he comes over and talks to you, but when you sit down, he'll talk about any issue. He does so eventually with a smile, and eventually you grow to realize that this is just not a big teddy bear of a man, but certainly a much more likable figure than most people might think. Not necessarily so for Lute Olson, who also passed away a few days ago. He was a Hall of Fame coach as well for the University of Arizona. Best known in this area, of course, to have the team that won his national championship, that vanquished one of Roy Williams' maybe best teams in 1997. And that really resonated with me as well, because I did cover that particular tournament in 1997. I was at the regional the prior week that Arizona was at, and they almost were upset twice by very, very marginal teams. I think College of Charleston was one, and then South Alabama, and South Alabama really had them beat and just threw the game away at the end. And this came on the heels of the year before, where Arizona had been bumped out of the tournament. The last couple of years prior to that, they had early exits from the tournament. So Lute Olson at that point in time was kind of under the gun. And what everybody always thinks about from a Kansas standpoint, I think in their memory bank, is that, well, this Arizona team hadn't played very well in the NCAA during the regular season, and then they got hot. Well, they didn't get hot. They played like crap the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament. What they did was, when they finally got past that hurdle, then they played really good basketball. And, of course, they probably indeed were an underachieving team to be a 4 seed, and ended up the only team that ever beat 3 number 1 seeds on the way to winning the national championship. Lute Olson looked like sort of a Southern gentleman with his shock of white hair. He was really kind of a surly guy in my dealings with him. But then again, my dealings with him mostly came that particular year, when he was, I think, feeling that he had been burned by the press a bit, and he was very defensive and off-putting in that regard. But many people would find him a much more ingratiating figure, and in the end, he was one of the all-time winningest coaches in college basketball, winning at the level of, I think, the 14th most wins in NCAA tournament history. But bad memories for Kansas fans as far as Arizona and Lute Olson. The other loss, tragically, at a very young age, at the age of 43, was a player who was a person who was related to sports but not directly involved. Well, sort of, kind of, and that was Chadwick Boseman, best known eventually as being Black Panther and becoming an iconic international figure and a strong presence as far as a black superhero is concerned. But he really came to the fore in a couple of sports movies, 42 when he played Jackie Robinson, and Draft Day. 42 was an outstanding film. Draft Day, by all reports, wasn't an outstanding film. I didn't see it, but Chadwick Boseman was somebody who was outstanding in just about everything I've seen him do. I've seen him 4 or 5 of his movies, and he was fantastic as Jackie Robinson, and he was lost to colon cancer. And when he became the Black Panther, he was in sports circles all the time because he was probably the most iconic actor of any kind, white, black, or whatever, in the world for that period of time. Unfortunately, a long battle with colon cancer and a lot of tributes throughout the sports world to Chadwick Boseman, lost at the age of 43. In golf, we saw a really iconic showdown at the BMW Championships, the last playoff event for the PGA Tour. They just have 2 of them now before the Tour Championship. And in the end, it wasn't the battles to get to East Lake in the top 30. It was a battle at the summit of golf as the number 1 and 2 players in the world went at it. And it turned into a remarkable finish as Dustin Johnson drained about 35, 40-foot putt up and over a ridge, basically the same putt that would be made later on by Jon Rahm, except from even further. But he made that to force a playoff. And then in the playoff, Rahm would drain a 66-foot putt, much on the same line. Both remarkable 1 in 50, maybe less putts. And Rahm's celebration was a spectacular one, and it was a fantastic finish. And golf really has had a great run of it. If only the only thing that would have made it better for them, they've had stars win, they've had great finishes, but Tiger Woods hasn't been in the mix. He won his tournament for this year, which was his 82nd that tied him with Sam Snead for the all-time record, but he did that last fall, basically, in the Zozo Championship. Since the restart, Tiger's been a complete non-factor. He will not be in Atlanta and will not be at the Tour Championship. Besides that, though, golf has been very exciting, and in no more regard than in yesterday's playoff at the BMW Championship, a remarkable finish. And so they go to Atlanta, and despite the playoff loss, Dustin Johnson, who, hey, if you're a golfer out there, you should take heed from this and take heart from this. Just about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than that, Dustin Johnson shot 80-80 at a tournament and missed the cut. 80 and then 80. And since then, he's bounced back and he's just been great. He won a tournament. He lost this tournament in a playoff. He'll be ranked number 1 and will be in the unique scoring system. 10 under to start the tournament, and Rahm will be 8 under to start the tournament as they play in Atlanta at East Lake for the gigantic $15 million prize. And the people who basically are usually bidding for it don't even need the $15 million. But hey, who can't use an extra $15 million? Can't we all? I'll take the caddy share of that. That would be $1.5 million, and walk away smiling. As I mentioned, some smiles, some frowns, some tears. That's the way sports is. And we can look ahead to a week from now when Monday Musings will be looking ahead to actual NFL football on a Thursday as we wrap up our Monday Musings. Danny SportsWrap.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com, specializing in expert healthcare guidance and assistance for you.